Hi, first graders. Welcome to the Problem Solvers Club, and we're going to do two things today. We're going to learn what the Problem Solvers Club is, and we're going to learn about a way to solve a problem through the design thinking process, which is a set of steps to solve a problem. In the Problem Solvers Club, we are going to be solving problems that characters are having to deal with in books. But what is a problem? A problem is something that goes wrong. A problem might be if you were running and you tripped and you fell and you cut your leg and you needed a Band-Aid. That's an example of a problem. How can problems be solved? Problems can be solved in different ways. One of these ways is using the design thinking process or steps. Each part of the design thinking process has a different step to help us solve a problem, and we are going to learn about each step. The design thinking process is steps that people can use to solve problems in the real world. In the Problem Solvers Club, we are going to use it to help characters solve problems in the books we read. The first step of the design thinking process is to empathize. To empathize means to think about how somebody else is feeling. So when we read a book, we're going to empathize with the character, and we're going to think about how would we feel if we were that character in that story. The next step of the design thinking process is to define. Define means to think about what is the problem and to say what the problem is. So in a story, we're going to think about what is the problem for the main character. What is going wrong? What's causing trouble for them? The third step is ideate. Ideate means to brainstorm solutions to the problem. So you're going to think about the problem the character is facing in the story, and you're going to come up with ideas of inventions that could help the character with their problem. The next step is to build a prototype. A prototype is a model of one of your ideas for your inventions. You are going to be something called a maker because you are going to be making a model of your invention. You're going to use glue, Legos, Play-Doh, anything. The last step of the design thinking process is to test your model and test your inventions. We are going to do this by sharing our inventions with each other on Seesaw and commenting on them about how we think they would work to help the character solve the problem. When we make a model for the prototype step of our invention, we are going to be makers. Makers are builders. They take materials like Legos or straws or wiki sticks and they build a model of their invention. Let's read a story about a girl who is a maker. She needs to create and build an invention to take her goldfish to a pet parade at school. Let's see how she does that and how she's a maker. The story is Made by Maxine, written by Ruth Spiro and illustrated by Holly Hatton. Meet Maxine. She makes new things from old things. She deconstructs and reconstructs, unscrews and re-glues. Maxine makes everything better, mostly. Meet Milton. From the day Maxine spotted him in the pet shop window, she was hooked. His scales shimmered, his fins fluttered. Was he waving at her? Since he was a fish, it was hard to tell. Maxine fell in love with Milton. He was a special fish and deserved a better home than a boring glass bowl. If I can dream it, I can make it, she said. And then she did. First, she tinkered with some old toys and made a spectacular tank. Next, she repurposed a broken bike and made a pedal-powdered fish feeder. For a final touch, Maxine repurposed some vegetables and made music. Being a fish, he was not much of a dancer, but Milton wiggled his fins to the beat and practiced his slick moves. One day at school, Miss Mindler made an exciting announcement. This week we'll have a class pet parade, she said. We'll meet on the playground after school and then march around the building. If you don't have a pet at home, you may borrow one from our classroom. I'll bring Mitten, my kitten. I'll bring Felix, my ferret. I'll bring Milton, my goldfish, said Maxine. It's a pet parade, not a wet parade. A goldfish can't march. He doesn't have feet. Milton is a very special fish, she replied. You'll see. At home, Maxine told Milton about the pet parade. He bubbled with excitement. Being a fish, he didn't get out much. It's okay if you don't have feet, Maxine said. Fins are perfectly fine. No, they're better than fine. They're fabulous. But Milton's spectacular tank was also spectacularly heavy. Maxine moved Milton into his bowl. It was boring but easier to carry. This is only temporary, she reassured him. Then she practiced marching. Splish, splosh, splash. Max's enthusiasm was dampened along with her sneakers. We need to make this bowl better, said Maxine. She collected containers from all around the house. She fixed and fiddled and failed. Maybe this isn't such a good idea. Maybe I should borrow the class hamster instead. Was Milton crying? Since he was a fish, it was hard to tell. After school, Maxine picked up her pencils and paper and planned her project. She had already discovered a million ways that would not work, which meant she was getting closer to finding one that would. She repurposed a race car, upcycled an umbrella, and reprogrammed an old remote. As the big day approached, the pet parade was all anyone could talk about. I brushed Mitten so she's extra fluffy. I made Felix a new sparkly collar. Maxine thought about Milton with his shimmering scales and his fluttery fins. He was beautiful and funny and smart and talented, and he was her friend. Sorry, hamster, I'm marching with Milton. All afternoon, she deconstructed and reconstructed, unscrewed and re-screwed and re-glued. She tinkered and hacked, bent parts forward and back. Maxine made a music playing, fin wiggling, wave sensing, wheel spinning, dance powered, fantastic, fantabulous, incredible, Fishmobile pet parade float. Meet Milton, said Maxine, my very special fish. He's dancing and driving. Mrs. Miller complimented Milton on being the best behaved fish of all. Was he blushing? Since he was a fish, it was hard to tell. She also complimented Maxine on finding a way to include Milton. If I can dream it, I can make it, Maxine said, and she did. We are going to be makers just like Maxine. We are going to ideate or brainstorm possible inventions of fish tanks to take her fish to the pet parade, and then you are going to build a prototype or a model of your invention today and post it on Seesaw. For example, here is my ideate step where I made a list of my possible inventions, including putting the fish tank on wheels and making the fish tank float with helium balloons. Then I built a prototype or model out of Play-Doh of the idea of the fish tank floating on balloons in the parade. Time to have some fun. You are going to be a maker just like Maxine. You are going to think of an idea for an invention to build a fish tank to take our fish to the pet parade. You are going to build a model or a prototype of it. You can use Legos, Play-Doh, pencil and paper, anything you've got. I can't wait to see your prototypes.